see 6 o'clock, so I think let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Shelton School Board's Board of Directors meeting for January 12th, 2021. So let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have a flag, Bob, that we can put up?
Yep. Hold on. Sorry, hit the wrong button. Yes, I have a flag prepared.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great.
All right. Thank you. All right. So moving on to item 2, adoption of the agenda. Have board members had a chance to look over the agenda? I don't believe we have any changes, additions, deletions, so I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda for January 12th, 2012.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the agenda is adopted. So moving on to item number 3, community comments. As a part of our regular school board meetings, the board invites community members to make public comments in person or by phone as conditions allow by calling the phone number and entering the meeting ID, which can be found on our website. Our public comment procedure has allowed each person 3 minutes to speak, and comments will be heard during 2 community comment periods as listed on the agenda. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items that are not on the agenda. The board may direct the superintendent to follow up on certain items that arise during public comment if appropriate. As with in-person meetings, public comments received in writing by email will not be read aloud, but will be directed for follow-up. Please be mindful of how you present your testimony, as the board will not allow complaints against an individual staff member or student in open session unless that individual has requested. Please make sure to state your name before speaking. So Bob, can you remind us of the instructions on how to raise hands and unmute and all of those things, please?
We're dialing in. As soon as you dial in, you're prompted for *6 to unmute your phone. The *9 key combination raises your hand and shows up on my screen is that you wish to make a statement. What I do request is individuals who have called in. I see there are 2. Individual with the last 4 of 9353. Can I get a name, please, so I can rename your account so your phone number doesn't show up for the public? *6 to unmute yourself.
6. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can.
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, my name is Erica Marbett.
Okay, thank you. I have you renamed. I have an individual.
Thank you.
Yep. I have an individual with the last 4 of the phone number of 0541. Can I also have a name for you, please? *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, hearing nothing.
You can just rename them to the last 4 digits.
Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All right, awesome, like the bad commercial. Last name is Hirsch, first name is Matt.
Matt Hirsch, okay. Where'd you go? I had you in here somewhere. Oh, there you are. All right. You've been renamed. I see Erica. Did I see his 3rd person join in? Sally. Yep, there's one.
I couldn't get sound on the other one. So I
Okay.
switched machines.
6046. I'll just use that. All right. I see 3 phone numbers that have called in. Here's another one. I know, Erica, you have your hand raised. Will I take care of naming people?
I was sort of fumbling with the, like learning how to do this. So I thought I was unmuting, but I was raising my hand. And I'm sorry, I missed like the first minute, but yeah, I'll be waiting for the public comment time.
Okay. I believe we are in now the public comment time. Is that correct, Madam President?
Yes, it is. So if you have comment, Erica, we would love to hear it.
Okay, sure. And forgive me, I thought this was going to be like 7:30. So if you could allow me about 15 seconds to get my comment up. And first, while I'm doing that, I did send an email to the school board last night. Did you guys get that?
I believe that I did.
I did as well.
Okay, so I was going to read that letter, and then also I have a coordinated message I was going to read with Ellen Sanchez, but she's probably struggling to get onto this meeting right now. I'm texting with her, and she is struggling to get on. So I guess what I'll do is go ahead.
We will have a second comment period near the end of the meeting. So if she's not able to get on now, then there would be another opportunity then as well. So.
Okay, well, I think what I'm going to do then is read what Ellen was going to read because order matters. And then also Tom Sinclair, there were 2 other people who were supposed to be joining me. Okay, good. Someone's saying go ahead and read. So I will do that. So I'm going to skip my letter and read something else, and just know that I just want you guys to know that the letter that I wrote and the set of questions that we gave to the Shelton School District, if you would like to engage on that and have a dialogue about it, that I remain available, as do my fellow parents who wrote you. So, okay, here we go. Good evening. I would like to address the school board about an event that occurred last week at Evergreen Elementary. Last week, staff from Evergreen Elementary called families of identified English learner students on the dual language program to tell them about a program opportunity. The families were asked to pick between hybrid or 100% online. If parents choose hybrid, their child would have some Spanish instruction when in person during the days they were at school. But if they chose to spend 3 days working online, but if their child would spend then 3 days working online independently. If they chose 100% online, their child would have no Spanish instruction. All instruction would be in English. Families had a few days to decide without any more information. If they were undecided, they were defaulted to the hybrid program. And so I will hang on until the end of the meeting to make sure that the other pieces were read, but now I'm going to read that in Spanish. Okay. La semana pasada, el personal de Evergreen Elementary llamó a familias de estudiantes clasificados como aprendiz en inglés que en este momento participan en el programa de doble inmersión para hablarles de una oportunidad de un programa. A las familias se les pidió que escogieran entre híbrido o en línea en el 100%. Les avisaron que si ellos escogían híbrido, entonces sus hijos tendrían un poco de español cuando les tocaba estar en la escuela durante los días, pero entonces tendrían 3 días en línea trabajando solitos. Si escogían en línea, el 100%, todas las clases se daría en inglés, nada de español. Las familias tenían que decidir sin tener más información. Si no tomaban una decisión, entonces la escuela los apuntaría automáticamente para el híbrido. Okay, so that's the end of the first statement. And like I said, I'll stick around to the end of the meeting and make sure that we have the other pieces read. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. So Bob, it looks like who is next in line for a public comment?
Individual named Hirsch.
So Mr. Hirsch, you have 3
Hello.
minutes to make your comment.
Thank you. Here we go. I'm in my 4th year teaching English at Shelton High School. I'm calling to address how to best approach reopening for this school year. Watching the meeting last night highlighted some of the big issues, safety costs, and logistics. I tell my students either one-on-one or in whole group daily that I desperately want to get stabbed in the arm so I go back on campus. I miss my kids. I miss sharing bubbles and starburst and laughter. I miss supporting them in person through the many challenges that our kiddos face in their academic and personal lives. It is not the same via video chat. However, the decision is not about me. The decision is about the hundreds of staff members and thousands of students this decision impacts. The safety report indicated that based on statistics, we will have a staff member die. I know this to be true. My wife has an aunt who works for a district our size in Wisconsin. They lost a high school English teacher to COVID. Do you want that to be us because we rushed back to campus? Think about the pain and trauma added onto the already rough experience because of the decision to go back without a vaccine. What if it is me? What will you tell my son, my daughter, my wife, my students? The second fact is the data currently being used does not account for the new, more contagious virus. While the new version is not more deadly by percentage, it is simple math that if more people get it with the same percentage of deaths, we will lose people. I miss my kids and coworkers like crazy, but I can see them next year. I don't get to have any more experiences with folks we lose to the virus. As for logistics and costs, the data being used for this opening has been based on all the proper protections. To do it right, we must be prepared to spend a lot of money to update ventilation or get air purifiers, buy a whole lot of PPE, and cover testing. I think about my classroom and can't help but wonder how quickly that can happen in a building that is 50 years old. Staff members are concerned about their lives. When COVID was in other communities, it was a phantom. Now that we know long haulers are people who have lost their loved ones, it is real. So talk about only 10% of staff not going back. Listen to HR. Look at national statistics. Well, 10% commit to not returning now, and we actually get closer to really being in buildings without a vaccine, that number will go up. The next problem is the reality of how to pull this all off logistically. Busing, passing periods, lunches, and cleaning will be hard. And for what? Even if we nail this and go back, it will still be hybrid. Students will still be learning 60% of their time virtually. 60%. So we spend all this time and money to put these folks at risk for 2 days a week per kid. So it doesn't alleviate daycare needs and just doesn't make sense. Now, if you push the legislature to get us that vaccine, we can bring that risk of death to just about zero. If we still want to pursue it, cool. At least we're doing it informed properly and with as much consideration for safety as possible. In short, this will be costly, complicated, and risky. At least give schools until February for now to get those things sorted out. Then hopefully we'll have some more data on this new virus strain and what vaccinations will truly look like. So my request, postpone until February and don't boil your decisions down to one metric. We have to look at vaccines, logistics, and costs. Please don't throw students, teachers, and staff under the bus to fill the potholes in this road we are all riding together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. All right, Bob, who is next in line for community
Individual
comment?
with phone number ending in 6046, *6 to unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, hi, this is Ellen Short Sanchez.
Hi,
Okay.
Ms. Sanchez, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, great. So you heard from Erica about actions taken on families of English learners at Evergreen Elementary. And I would like to read the school board some English language learner laws from our federal and state level. WAC 392-160-010 says, consistent with the provisions of this chapter, every school district board of directors shall make available to each eligible student of transitional bilingual instruction program, or if the use of 2 languages is not practicable as provided in the WAC, an alternative instructional program. And number 2, shall communicate whether feasible with parents of students in the bilingual program or alternative instruction in a language they can understand. And so my question to the school board is, how will you be able to ensure that the majority of your students and families at Evergreen, over 200, are accessing their learning in meaningful ways when they no longer have Spanish, which is a language they require to access their learning? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right. Bob, do we have anyone else who's wanting to make a comment?
Phone number ending in 7482. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we can.
Hi, this is Tom St. Clair. Just want to read my statement. Hello, all. Today, last week, someone from Evergreen Elementary called me to ask me to pick between a hybrid model and 100% virtual for my son. She told me that if I chose hybrid, my son could continue in the dual language program. But if I chose 100% online, my son would no longer be able to participate in the dual language, wouldn't have access to Spanish language instruction. I told the person that I was familiar with laws and that according to EL learner laws, they cannot change my son's EL program without parent permission. So I told the lady that I wanted 100% online because I'm concerned about safety with my child and my family. And I did not give them permission to take my son out of the dual language program. Essentially, Shelton was asking me to pick between two bad choices and then gave me an ultimatum. I'm an educated person. I can imagine somebody who is an immigrant that doesn't understand the laws and doesn't understand their options, given 2 days to decide, is very much between a rock and a hard place. And that was a very, very, I would say, racist place to put a lot of the families in our community. Just a dangerous place for you guys to be going. I'm going to go ahead and read this in Spanish as well. Hola a todos. Hoy alguien de Evergreen Elementary me llamó para pedir que escogiera entre híbrido y 100% virtual. También me dijeron que si escogía híbrido, mi hijo podría continuar en doble inmersión, pero que si escogía virtual 100%, mi hijo ya no podría participar en doble inmersión. Le avisé a la señora que yo conoció muy bien las leyes y que según la ley ellos no pueden cambiar el programa de EL English Learner o aprendiz de inglés sin el permiso de los padres. Así que yo le dije que quería virtual 100%, pero que yo no les daba permiso, que sacaron a mi hijo de doble inmersión. Gracias por tu tiempo. And I'm saying it in Spanish so that the Spanish-speaking parents can also understand what I'm trying to bring to you folks. Hopefully there's some participating in this meeting.
Thank you,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. We appreciate your comment. All right, Bob, is there anyone else that is wanting to make a public comment?
Anybody else has their hand raised at this time?
All right, well, thank you very much. So there will be another opportunity for public comment near the end of the meeting. So let's go ahead and we're going to move on to item number 4, reports and recognition. First up for us tonight is update on the bond projects with Jeff Feeney.
Thank you, Sally. Good evening, board, Dr. Apostle. Let me start tonight, since we're getting very close to saying these projects are completely done. Let me start with Bordeaux. I believe that we have Bordeaux down to hours of work. Mainly this is finishing the commissioning. The majority of the commissioning was completed yesterday and today. We do have a couple of things that have to be adjusted. They say it's not major, but it still needs to be completed. Upon completion of the commissioning, the city will be called back in for their final inspection. And if there's no comments from the city, Robert, we have certificate of occupancy is the next step. Have you heard anything different?
And actually, there's a little update to that, Jeff. The city will actually grant a C of O prior to commissioning being complete, just waiting for some information from the architect regarding the 2 code issues that are in question.
Yeah, so Bordeaux is in the final stages, but I believe we have the right to now occupy and use the building, which is the goal. Get that back online. So that's the update on Bordeaux. Let me talk about, start through the projects in the D package. Start with D1, which was the softball field. The softball field is officially complete. We have filled out the notice of completion forms that have to go to the state, 3 agencies of the state. Brenda has that form in hand and can submit that at any time to the state. So package D1 will then be officially done and ready to release the retainage and go out with completing all of the things required to finish that project. D3 is, if I remember right, 6 affidavits from being complete. These affidavits have to come from the subcontractors verifying their wages, that they paid the proper wages. And we cannot finalize the project until all affidavits are in. And I believe we've notified the contractor and everything that they need to get 6 of their subcontractors to file those affidavits. We have the forms filled out for notice of completion. They are sitting on Brenda's desk. And as soon as we are made notice that the affidavits are complete, D1 and D3 can be submitted as completed projects under the state guidelines. D2, which is the mini dome project, is getting ever so close. There's one piece of construction that still has to be done. There's a vestibule that we have some temporary wood doors in so that it's functioning. But when, I'm sorry, excuse me, we have some metal doors that are being used so the building can be functional. But as soon as we get the wooden doors, they have to tear out the metal doors and put in the wooden doors and trim it all up to be completely finished with the construction. The pool, we have completed all of the requirements of the Department of Health for the pool. We're waiting to get a final letter saying that there's nothing else to be done. Again, the city will come in after that letter and give us the right to occupancy of the pool. We still have some final commissioning elements on D2 to complete. Again, they're mainly finishing the punch list items and just adjusting controls and everything, getting it set up so that the building can be completely used. So we're getting extraordinarily close on all of the D package and Bordeaux to having them 100% done and ready for total occupancy. After that, the end of this month, Brenda and I and Andrea will be meeting. We're kind of putting together reviews of all of the budgets for all of the bond projects from package A, B, and C, and also the D packages. We're going to go through every line in the budget, add up all the pluses and minuses, and try and figure out exactly where we are at the end of this project so that we can report to the board, hopefully next month, Brenda, right? Hopefully. We're going to keep saying that.
That's my goal.
Yeah. And so what we're going to do is we're going to consolidate all the budgets. We know that in some budgets we have a little money left over, and some budgets we've overspent a little bit, and we're going to move numbers from projects until we can balance hopefully every project to being pretty much under budget. And that's our goal, and we're going to see where we are as we get started with this. The last projects we had on site, we had 3 drainage projects that we were doing that were additional drainage projects that weren't part of the bond, weren't part of package A or B, but we did because it just seemed like it was silly to leave 3 puddles after all the work we've done on especially the Shelton site. So with that, we've completed the drainage at the entrance to the student lot, the new entrance there. That's done, and I think that's working pretty well. Robert, you may be able to report on that.
We're actually making some additional modifications based on the weather that's happened. So that entrance is actually closed, and they'll be pouring back concrete here as soon as the weather allows, and that will reopen.
And then we redid the drainage at the entrance to the mini dome, where the bus lane and the road that goes around the mini dome towards the ball fields. That seems to be working fairly well. The reports today after all this rain is it's reasonably dry. It's draining quite well. We've put in new drainage at the entrance to the bus lane at Shelton Springs Road. That should be just about done, if not. And the excavation that you see in the bus lane is the last dry well and valley gutter that's being widened. It just wasn't draining well enough, so we actually had it redone. And so that's the last piece of the drainage. And when those are done, hopefully we'll have a pretty dry parking lot, bus lane, mini dome, and student parking lot. So that's where
and we're looking at additional work with the city, where we have ponding that's now happening at the end of the bus lane. As we've chased everything out, it just new ponds are forming beyond where we worked. And so we met with city engineer, and we're looking at some things that we can do together to resolve that ponding.
Yeah, we're actually going to take some of that water and drain it into the city's storm drain, so that'll help. So those are moving along quite well. So we're down to doing final edits of the budget, see where we are. We're issuing and prepared to issue shortly the notice of completions to the state. It goes to 3 state agencies. The drainage hopefully will be done soon and get done. The last thing we have is, again, finishing that vestibule in the mini dome and the final punch list items that are being done. And with that, all of those projects should be coming to an end very, very soon. So that's all I have at this point.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Board members, do we have any questions or for Jeff or any comments? I'm seeing a lot of people shaking their heads, so I think you did a very well done job there. Thank you for the update. It's good news to hear that we are so close.
We actually finally the pool was all done. We thought the pool was completed, and we found out there was a part of the law that said that the markers that told the depth of the water had to be 18 inches from the edge of the pool. Those of you that have seen the pool, you'll realize that we put in a new drainage system around the pool to help improve some of the wave action in the pool for better swimming conditions. And that was done with a grading system so that the water could drain in and out from the pool and blah, blah, blah. Department of Health says, sorry, those numbers have to be 18 inches from the edge of the pool. We had insert tile markers in the new flooring. They were beautiful. And the Department of Health said, sorry, they're 24 inches from the edge of the pool. So we now have, I think we have 2 sets of markers, one that are in the floor and one that are now on the grading. But the Department of Health appears to have bought off on that. So we think we finally have jumped the final hurdle, and we can get that pool open, ready for swim season 1st of February. And I haven't seen the letter from the Department of Health, but we're anticipating it, saying it's closed. So, Robert, anything else we've missed?
Thorough as always.
So, and I think now the, if I haven't had a chance to see, but I think all of the sodding has been done around the shot put pits and all that. That's completed, and the fencing there. So I think all of the athletic facilities are just, there isn't much to do except for finishing that one vestibule. That's the biggest piece. So,
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate
bet.
it, as always.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. So moving on to item 4.02, new proposed housing development update with Robert.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm happy to report to you this evening just some updated information that I've been able to receive from the city, discussions with the city engineer and the city manager related to the nearby additional housing. And so this is a 400 unit housing complex, so it's very significant in size. It would significantly add to the overall population of the city of Shelton. It is, there were some earlier iterations where of the plans that they would, part of the development would empty out onto Shelton Springs Road. The current plan, as revised recently, now has a development completely all the traffic on Brockdale Road. So to try to orient where this development is, it is directly north of the Huff and Puff Park and east of the MCTC. So if you can imagine, if you were behind the MCTC and all the way to Brockdale Road, it would fill in the development in that area, and it fills up all the way up against to the north, the homes that are on Island Lake Drive. So the back parcels, the back of the parcels that are along the south end of the Island Lake neighborhood would actually butt up to the property of the development. But the homes would not be adjacent to those homes. They're going to be centered within the development as a whole. These are identified as workforce housing units. So this is not a conventional neighborhood like we see what is just north of the MCTC, which is sold out, like was a developer neighborhood like D.R. Horton, and they sold off individual homes. This would actually function as a rental neighborhood. And they're all, but it's not an apartment complex. It's not patio homes. They're not duplexes. They're all individual homes on 400 lots detached. And so the purpose of these homes is that what they identify as workforce housing units is that they're for people who make 80% of the area median income or less. The current area median income in Mason County is $53,480. So as far as qualifications for people that would be able to live in this neighborhood, we're not certain about how adjusted gross incomes affect that, or families would be double, if there were two wage earners. Although those details are not available yet, but I just want to give you kind of an idea of what 80% of 53,480, which is $42,784. These are for the first homes are available to city, state, county, and federal employees. And so qualifying employees who meet those income qualifications are given first availability for any units that are available. And then everyone else would then qualify for additional units after those units are satisfied based on their income level. I did ask Jeff Knighton, the city manager, what as it relates to school district employees, since it's not specifically identified in that list as school district with the government agencies. He did mention that he knew that teachers would qualify, but was uncertain about all district employees, but there was definitely would be acceptable within the income limits if they did qualify for that, for if they met other income qualifications. They just may not get preference on a waiting list. So one of the things that there is as a part of this, and since only roughly a third of the whole property is being developed for housing. Other parts of it are being used for enhancement. And there's pedestrian trails that are be available, pedestrian trails that link to the Huff and Puff system as well. There's a neighborhood park that's going to be a part of this that has play structure and covered picnic facilities. There's a trailhead parking, so those who live outside of the development could park there within the development and access all the trails that will link up to Island Lake and to the Huff and Puff system. So it'll be it'll add to and create an extending and more comprehensive trail network. There's also identified to be a mountain bike course as a part of this as well that has different features and attributes for those who enjoy mountain biking. The developer would pay the city impact fees for traffic and for water. As far as school district impact fees, because we typically would work with a developer to receive school impact, because this would be a significant impact to the Shelton School District with the number of homes that's being identified. That would be at some future state after approval. Brenda and in the finance department and superintendent would coordinate coming to an agreement for school impact fees. So the housing that's identified, there are roughly 5,000 square foot lots, and to give you some perspective, that's roughly the size of the downtown lots for housing, as also an Ingleside. They're roughly 5,000 square feet as well. They're, in Ingleside, there are many homes that use 2 lots, and so some are larger and so forth. But I used to live on a lot in Ingleside that was 5,200 square feet. It's pretty compact, but it allows you to have separation from your neighbors that meet the code requirements for setbacks and separation that the city requires. Additionally, the city requires that all the parts of this development meet all the same standards for building, all the design standards, aesthetic standards, setbacks, and everything that other developers and builders would in a conventional neighborhood also. And so the appearance of the homes in every way would look just the same as if D.R. Horton or anyone else was building them here in town. There will be 2 phases. There's a first phase, which fronts more towards Brockdale Road, which contains about 75% of the units. And then the second phase that would be behind it and would be the section that's behind the MCTC. And that is also the phase in which all of the park and enhancements would be put together and would start to be built. Now there could be an overlap of phases. They don't necessarily have to be completely successive, but at some point through a successful part of phase 1, they would start to move and start to develop phase 2, depending on how quickly these units are actually being rented. And as we know, there is a significant housing shortage in Mason County, especially in Shelton. So there's a lot of that still needs to be negotiated and worked through. Currently, the city has changed the vote that they were planning for on January 19th based on community feedback of concerns and thoughts and voices that want to be heard, that they've moved the date for review and approval to February the 2nd, or possible, I should say, possible review approval. That's the part of the timeline that they've established. They're continuing with on the 19th to provide more information under the business agenda, and they will also they're seeking public input that they would like to receive as well during that meeting. So in the February 2nd meeting, they could start to begin vote to surplus the property, because this is city property, and then they could be brought up as soon as February 2nd, and as well then they may have to take action to sell the property to the developer, and then the contract agreements and everything. So it could all happen in one day in February 2nd, or it may happen in multiple phases, or the city could further delay based on public input. So there's a lot of moving pieces still to everything, since nothing is completely finalized or voted on. And so stay tuned. And so none of these are set in stone. All the different components and features of the neighborhood may change. That's all the information I have for you today. And I stand for questions, but I'm not sure to what extent I'd be able to answer them, because I think I told you everything that I know.
Thank you, Robert. So are there any questions for Robert?
Do we have a sense of how many bedrooms or what size houses?
They didn't mention in any of the documents that the city shared with me or in conversations that I had. I can tell you, based on my knowledge of a 5,000 square foot lot, that on a 1-story home, you'd be limited to about meeting all the city setbacks to probably 1,400 square feet for a 1-story dwelling, and a 2-story building, you could probably get up to about 2,100 square feet or so. So, you know, and I don't think they would target it. They could push a 2-story structure larger than that, building over garages and stuff. But I doubt, considering who they're trying to target, they would have anything larger of that size. I think they're probably going to provide, I would guess, in the 1,000 to 1,600 square foot range.
Starting out. Thank you.
All right, so not seeing any other questions for Robert. Thank you very much.
Do that.
So moving on to item 4.03, budget status report for November from Brenda.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Can everybody see that right now? Okay.
Yes.
So in your board packet, you have the actual reports out of the Westpac system, but on the screen, I have the summary of our November budget status report. General fund for November, we received 5% apportionment. 2 years ago, the state readjusted the percentages of apportionment and pushed a lot of it to August instead of receiving it throughout the year. This was one of the months that was adjusted. So we only received 5% for November. So you'll see our fund balance went down a little in November. So we're at $1,942,903 at the end of November. Capital Projects Fund, we were at $565,957. As you know, in December, we did receive payments from our non-highs to assist with all of our capital projects. So you'll see that balance go up again when I present the December. Debt Service Fund, the November balance ended at $5,039,390. On December 1st, the majority of that went out in bond payments to pay our payment on the bond that we pay on June 1st and December 1st. Associated Student Body is staying pretty steady because there's just not a lot of activity going on in there right now with no athletics and activities. So November, we ended at $454,872. Transportation Vehicle Fund right now, we're just getting interest from having that money invested. Holly is doing the research on getting us some more buses. $250,878 was in there at the end of November. And then we have our trust funds that have our scholarships in there. November, the ending balances were for the Drake Scholarship, $208,414. The Mike Johnson Memorial Scholarship was $5,470. And the Bulk Memorial Scholarship is at $25,680 for a total of $239,565. I will be presenting the December budget status at your January 26th meeting. We just got the treasurer statement, so we'll be caught up with that one where we can start doing them every month again. So do you have any questions?
Questions for Brenda?
Brenda, may I ask a question, please? Brenda, can you talk a little bit, and I know you'll probably be bringing this up at the next budget meeting, but can you talk a little bit about our attendance, our enrollment, not our attendance, but our enrollment at this time, and talking about the 3-month rolling average?
Yes, I'm going to be pulling numbers because I don't have them in front of me. But so what happens September through December? We budgeted at 4,125 FTE. So that is what we receive from the state on those months in apportionment. In January, which is coming up in a couple weeks, on January 31st, they will take our actual enrollment, the average for those months, including January, and pay us off of that. January's enrollment looks like it has dropped considerably. We're still waiting for one school to turn in their numbers, but we will be about 23 FTE above budget based on my calculations without having that school in for January. I can tell you that January's enrollment is below our budgeted number. So was that what you were looking for, Alex?
And the only thing I can say to the board and to the people listening in is that I was in a meeting this morning with the ESD 113 superintendents, and we were talking about federal funds and how important they might be to every school district in America, including ours. And we're anticipating, I think there was about $800 billion given to the state of Washington, and we're just waiting to see how much money each district's going to get. I can tell you right now, based on the additional expenses that we've had, it's been very challenging, and we would welcome any help that we would get from the federal government or from the state. And the legislature, of course, is meeting currently, and I'm sure they're discussing a number of issues related to school district budgets, because they know that we're being hit hard in terms of COVID-19 issues from September, actually even before September. So we're hoping for a better outlook financially, but I can tell you right now, it's pretty tough. No question about it. Hopefully better days are coming.
So Brenda, would January then be the first month where we're below our projected enrollment?
The actuals will be, that's the first month. We've been staying above. We did take quite a drop this month, but our average enrollment is still above the budget. So we'll get a little extra above what we budgeted. So.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments?
I know that you were going over the budget. Is an enrollment and a report on that something that we will be discussing in the future? Because I'm always curious to see, is this enrollment drop kind of interspersed amongst all of the schools? Is it hitting any particular grades harder than another? You know, things like that. I'm always curious about, but I since you were talking about the budget, you may not have that information right at this point in time. I don't know if that's something for another meeting at another time.
We can provide that, Carrie, the next meeting, the second board meeting in January. We can provide that information for the board and for the community.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Sandy, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, I know, you know, that 1.9 million.
So Sandy, I think we lost you there.
I know my connection's really bad, so I'll just stop.
Okay. I'm sorry, we couldn't hear what you had to say. All right. Well, with that, that wraps up reports and recognitions. And now we're moving on to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Several agendas some general fund warrants, the personnel report are all on the consent agenda for the month. Is there any discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. So number 6, discussion and action items. 6.01 is the proposed constitution for forming a Cedar High School associated student body. Stacy?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to come before you to discuss this item. Thank you to Sandy Tarswell and the rest of you who gave me some feedback after the last meeting. We did do the revisions that were suggested as far as some grammatical errors and as far as a few clarifications to make sure it was clear in all sections how our different committees, our advisory representative council, as well as our executive council were elected, because there was a little confusion in that. And I do apologize for bringing a not completely edit or error-free document to you. We did let the students write it, but we probably should have done at least one more edit with them. So that is on us. So thank you for considering it again. And if there's any questions, please let me know.
I guess I should unmute myself. Are there any questions for Stacy or any comments? All right, well, if we are ready, we can take action on this. I would entertain a motion to approve their associated student body.
I move that we approve the Cedar High School associated student body.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the constitution for forming a Cedar High School associated student body. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so congratulations, Stacy and Cedar High School. You have a associated student body.
I might just say thank you so much to the school board. And I will say that Dr. Apostle told me a couple of years ago that the most thrilling thing in my career would be starting a new high school. And all I could think of at the time was, this sounds terrifying. But it is pretty exciting every time we get one little more step. And the students will be so excited to hear that their constitution is passed. Now we can elect our officers, and they'll be really excited about this. So thank you all.
It is very exciting. All right, so moving on to item 6.02, this is an update on the superintendent search. So Sandy, I'm hoping that your connection is solid enough that you can give us an update.
And I'm thinking I'm going to be very brief just to ensure. And basically the update is just reviewing. The next meeting that we have will be Thursday, the 21st, with the search consultants. Will be by that time, the community input sessions will have finished, the surveys will have closed, and we will be reviewing that data. The board has been asked to submit a list of criteria to the search consultants as well, individually submit that. And so we'll review those as well. We'll look at advertising. We'll discuss some salary parameters and finalize the timeline for the posting and opening and closing and the remainder of the search process. So did that come across clear?
Yes, very clear.
Okay.
So Sandy, do you know, or maybe one of the cabinet members might know, how the first meetings have gone? I know we had a stakeholders meeting last night, and I know we have had some staff meetings in the last few weeks and even before Christmas. Do we have any idea how those have been going?
Did staff have anything to add? I did get a little bit of a report from Rich. that, there were 6 students that participated in the student session. And that represented all 3, Cedar High School, Choice High School, and Shelton High School. Some of the support staff meeting was a little light. The secondary principals seemed to have quite a few in that one, is what I heard. And, Rich is feeling like people are really responding to the Zoom meetings as a way of participating. Anybody else have anything else to add?
Sandy, I can jump in here real quick.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so everything you said is pretty accurate. It looks like we had only 5 people show up to the meeting last night. That was open to all community and staff, and anyone else. It's really open to anybody. We do have 2 or 3 more opportunities, which are all posted on our website for community members and staff and families to attend. That will be happening between tomorrow and Thursday, as well as another meeting for our tribes and anyone associated with the tribes who'd like to attend that one. So I encourage everyone to participate if you can. You can find all that information on our website or our Facebook page.
Excellent. Thank you, Katie.
And anybody that can't participate in the Zoom sessions, there's a survey out there for you.
Sandy, I have a question. Did you say they wanted the school board members to
submit a list of maybe 5 criteria or qualifications, and submit that to the search consultants?
Is there any particular format or?
No, it can be bullets, it can be sentences, phrases.
And you have the
Just kind of
contact
idea.
information for us to submit that?
Yes, I'll make sure to send that out to you. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much, Sandy. All right. So moving on to item 6.03, the reopening of school. And this is a time for discussion and possible action. I will say before we get started, or as we get started talking about this, we've had a couple of meetings where we've had quite a excellent presentation by staff and cabinet, a lot of information. We've had quite a lot of discussion and questions, including from our meeting last night. Also had Chris from the Department of Health was able to join us and give us some background information from Mason County Department of Health perspective, so that was helpful as well. I think at this point, we're sort of down to 2 possible options that we are looking at. We had targeted January 25th as a possible day for restarting school for our pre-K 1 group, and then sort of moving from there in staggered sections, different age groups every couple weeks. And then the other option that's been brought to us and suggested by the building principals was a date in February, I believe February 22nd. We also have received some information from the unions as terms of their comfort level and the desire to have the opportunity to possibly be vaccinated before returning to school. So with all that said, sort of a very brief summary of a lot of talk and discussion over the last week. Dr. Apostle, did you want to add anything at this point before we open it up for discussion and questions?
Well, the only thing I would add, Sally, and you're correct, we've had some great discussions. We've had a collaborative effort on the part of many people, giving us their opinion and ideas regarding the reopening of our schools. Of course, all of us want our students back in school, but there's a couple of factors that we're considering, and we considered them in our discussions, and that's the current rate of COVID-19. where here in Shelton, we're nearing 400 per 100,000. At least that was the last number. I think it was 399 or 398. And of course, the issue of vaccinations, that's come into play into our discussions. But there's no question we want to reopen our schools for our kids. We miss them. We know they need us. We need them. And we want to get our kids back in school, but we want to do it as safely as possible. So there's a general feeling that we need a little bit more time to go into February. As the board knows, that's been kind of the consensus from various parties. But you know, it's a very complex and difficult situation. But there's no question we want our kids back in school, and I will speak to that later in the meeting here.
All right, thank you, Dr. Apostle. Part of that possible February 22nd opening, in the meantime, we would be looking to bring in more small groups of students. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so hoping and working towards bringing more kids in, regardless of whether we're looking at the January 25th or February 22nd. So at this point, I'll open it up for discussion, questions any board members have. I know that after our meeting last night, we've had a chance to sleep on it and think a bit about it. So I know that there may be some more questions that have come up. Or maybe not.
I can jump in. And I said this last night, so I will start my comments off the same way. I really respect and value all of the hard work that everyone has put into these back to school reopening plans, because I know it is a lot of hard work. And I, as a school board member, definitely respect the principals coming together and putting together a letter to the school board with their concerns. They are the ones in their buildings. They've got the strongest pulse on what's going on and the needs that they may have. And it sounds like there are still some things that need to get wrapped up. I also, know that because we're getting different information all the time, it does look like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Apostle, but it looked like the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Reichdahl, has written a letter to the governor regarding vaccinations as well. So at this point in time, I think going with what the principals have suggested of February 22nd will give more time to see where this vaccination discussion can develop, even on a statewide level. And we can also see where some of these budgetary issues may fall, as well as having our local schools be able to shore up what their plans are as well. And then a bright spot for that for me is that they also do have these plans to have more small groups of students that have particular needs coming back into the buildings, and we can do that safely. Then that's where I'm looking at things at this point, instead of doing the January 25th start date.
Thank you, Carrie. May I respond, Sally?
Yes, please.
When you mentioned the letters and the communication going to the governor, that's coming from all directions across the state. What we're saying is that we all want our kids in school. There's no doubt about it. We want them in our schools now, today, but we want to make sure that they're safe and that our staff is safe. So there has to be a correlation between wanting our kids in school and making sure our kids are safe in school and that our staff is going to be safe. People are getting vaccines. There needs to be a correlation between asking our teachers to go into the schools and having them safely go into the schools by being vaccinated. We want to give our teachers, our staff, the opportunity to get vaccinated so that they can go to school and feel confident that they're going to stay healthy. And that, of course, impacts all of our students at the same time. So things are moving forward, and I'm hoping that the vaccine becomes more readily available for all of us and specifically for our staff, so that we can truly open up our schools as soon as possible. And I have confidence that that's going to happen.
I guess I would add to that, that I really appreciate the comments from the parents and the community, as well as the staff at the schools. And I mean, we have 4,200 kids in our district, and I don't remember the number of staff, but that's a lot of people in our community. And I don't want to see us lose anybody. And right now in our county, we have a higher rate of infection that we've seen. Today it's 399 per 100,000. That's double the rate that they will even consider a high school student going back. And it's just dangerous. I know we talk about the hope and we see the vaccine coming and whatever. Right now, I just think it's too dangerous, and I don't want to see us at this point go into a situation like that. So I would like us to wait. A month could mean a lot of different things. It could be a lot brighter at the end of that month. I would like us to continue as a district to look at creative ways to engage the students. We have a program that's going, but I don't know it's necessarily reaching every student as well as it could. And so just keeping the communication going with students and parents and looking for more creativity. But at this time, I really think we need to wait.
And I could go along with that. My only concern is that February 22nd isn't going to buy us enough time. Even if the vaccination schedule is sped up, I don't think we're going to be ready to go by February 22nd. I mean, we get, even at best case scenario, we'll have maybe custodians ready to enter the building, and then they're going to want to clean, and then teachers are going to want to come in. I don't see us really being able to move forward till into March.
Sally, can I respond?
Yes, please.
Sandy, I think you could be correct, but we've got to try. We've got to have a real positive outlook and do the very best we can from this point on to get as many students in our schools as possible, but at the same time, hope for the vaccine to come through for our families and for our staff. I'm just hoping that takes place. But when we get to, for example, if the board approves the date of February 22nd this evening, along the way between now and then, we're going to have to monitor things very closely, and we'll know if we can open or not. If things get worse, then we're in a different ballgame altogether. If things are better, which we all hope it will be, then we will take appropriate action. But what you've mentioned, could that happen? Yes, it could happen. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping things get much better, but you just don't know what this virus is going to do from day to day. I was listening, just very quickly, I was listening to the news this evening, and a professor of medicine from the University of Washington, who appears on Channel 5 quite frequently, he said that he can't understand why we want to send our kids to school and send our teachers to school without a vaccine. And he's on the news on Channel 5, he's world renowned. He said, I just think it's pretty simple. If we don't have the vaccine, why would we send our teachers back to school? And he said the same for our students and our families. So people are very, very concerned about the health of everyone. And we've got to work together to monitor things. But there's no question, we want our students back in school. They're being hurt by not being back in school. And our teachers want to be in school to teach our kids. It's just things are so complex, and this virus kills people. Let's face it. It does. And so we've got to just be aware of that as we move forward. But I can tell you right now, the Shelton School District is going to move forward, but we will monitor things very closely. We will communicate with, of course, with the board and with the community, and we need to move together forward for the sake of our children and for the sake of our staff and community. And we will do that. And we've been doing that since March.
Ellie, I just have a few questions. I think, I made my position and thoughts clear last night, but so I won't go into all the reasons that I support postponing the reopening, but I do have a few questions. One is, when we do reopen, let's say we reopen in February, is that going to cause are we going to have the same plan that's going to still displace our highest need students? Because I don't know that I'll be able to support that plan in February. The second part of that, and we heard from some concerned parents tonight about the English learners. And I guess I'm wondering, if we stay online, are we saying that they're not going to have their Spanish program? Or I know that part of that had to do with not having resources if we did the hybrid. So I'm hoping that this postponing this is going to still provide the English learners with their Spanish program.
Okay.
And then the third question that I have is tied to the vaccination. Alex, you've mentioned a few times, and I know some of the teachers and unions that we've heard from are focusing on the vaccination, but as we heard from the health department, we're looking at probably April before we even see the majority of our teachers being able to get their first vaccination. So I guess I'm just trying to, worry about these things that are a little bit out in front of us, but I do fully support postponing the opening.
May I ask Lynn a question? Lynn, your first comment about the in-person instruction, are you saying that you would like to see that expanded beyond just those students that have special circumstances and special needs? Are you saying?
No, I want to continue, serving those students with those highest needs. I know that we put a pause on allowing any additional students, but I want to lift that. I would like to see us serve any student who meets that criteria of special needs, whether it's homelessness or disability or connectivity or language issues. I want to make sure that if they are not able to access their education, that we provide a way for them to do that in these small cohorts.
I totally agree with you.
But my concern, Alex, the question was really focused on, that was part of the plan and that was part of the presentation when we received it, was if we reopen in January, that we would these kids would no longer they may not be able to come in, that we wouldn't have the resources or space, and some of them would have to be turned away. And my biggest concern with that plan is I don't want to see that in any circumstance. And so if we open in February, I don't want to see that. So I don't know whether there's something is different in February with that, or.
Well, I can tell you this, I'm in total agreement with you. We will never turn away students that have special circumstances. That's not who we are, and we can't do that. We've got to figure it out and help our kids under any and all circumstances. Now, the one point that you made about the vaccines, I think the pressure that's being put on the governor, it makes so much sense in terms of vaccinating our staff so they can come back to work. They've got to be moved up. It just doesn't make sense not to do that. So I have high hopes that the governor and the state superintendent will make a decision along with the legislature, if that needs to happen, that we're going to vaccinate our teachers, give them the opportunity to be vaccinated so they can come back to school and deal with students that we're talking about and beyond that. So we're on the same page, absolutely, Lynn. No question.
I think the challenge remains with this too, that it's a ever evolving situation, whether that's case rates in our community, whether it is, I mean, there could be multiple changes that could happen with vaccinations, whether they combine both of those sets of teacher, and staff groups into one and move it up, whether there's more vaccinations that come out, whether we do see mutations. I think I think the best thing that we can do right now is take a recommendation that we have and set another marker. But of course, like we've been doing all along, it's a fluid situation. And as we get information, I mean, we've all been doing this since this began. And I mean, there's so many times where it's like, we wouldn't have ever guessed that we'd be here right now with some of these decisions that we're having to make. We all would have hoped that. I couldn't believe when schools had to shut down in March. I thought, how can we do this for 2 weeks before spring break? There's no way, and here we are so much longer. But I think that the best thing we can do is set another marker at the recommendation of our principals. We can be continuously meeting and assessing the data, because all of these things will change depending on where we sit. I hope to see an extreme reduction in case rates in our community. That would be a wonderful thing. I think that would make people a lot more comfortable in general. And then we can see what happens with these conversations and with what does end up happening with vaccinations.
Thank you.
I wanted to add that in there.
I think it's an excellent point. And that's sort of the goal, I think, we are only moving it out a month, but that buys everyone a little bit more time. It buys some more planning. It buys a chance to look at some of these things that we've discussed. Like Lynn brought up, I've had concerns in terms of our English language learners and some of our students who are facing some extra challenges, especially in their learning. And also the other thing it does is there are school districts around the state that are making some choices to just be online the rest of the year. And we're making a choice to say, hey, we still have hope that maybe we can come back. And so we just are going to move. The idea is if by going to another month out, we're just moving the flag back a month and then reassess as we go along. So I think that's where I'm also sitting in terms of this. I'm not willing to give up yet on the hope that we'll be able to have our students back in school at least for a little bit this year. So at this point, if anyone has any further questions or comments, if not, we can move on to action on this. If someone would be willing to make a motion.
I move that we postpone the reopening of schools to February 22nd.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone the reopening of schools to February 22nd. Is there any further discussion?
I would maybe add the word possible.
Possible reopening of schools
Possible.
February 22nd. Yes. That is a good point. It's sort of an assumed, but we'll be really clear about it. Possible reopening of schools on February 22nd. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff. Thank you, principals and cabinet and Dr. Apostle. And I know a lot of time and energy and probably a lot of angst went into looking at all of this data and coming up with this plan. So thank you for all of that work. It's greatly appreciated. All right, so we'll move on to the superintendent's report. And before I have Dr. Apostle bring his report, I just want to mention that after the superintendent's report will be another opportunity for community comments. So if you're hoping to make a community comment and you haven't called in yet, this would be a good time to do so. All right, Dr. Apostle.
Thank you very much. I just want to make a statement here. And I'm speaking primarily to the board, to the staff, to the students, and to the families. I want you to know that we are going to move confidently and safely forward to reopen our schools. There is no question about it. If you feel a little frustrated, I'm telling you, you have a lot of company. We are frustrated. We want our kids back, and we're going to do everything we can to bring them back safely. I have every confidence possible in our staff and our carefully sequentialized instructional plan to do the very best for every one of our students. The plan is to start PK1 on February 22nd, as the board has approved this evening. But we look to add even additional grade levels dependent on the circumstances at that particular moment in time. We would love to bring more kids back on February 22nd. And that's why we need to monitor things very closely from this point to February 22nd. Again, February 22nd, 2021 will be our reset date. We will continue again to monitor everything very closely towards that date. I want you to know that I'm meeting with our principals and cabinet members this Thursday to begin expanding in-person instruction, if we can do it, which will continue to focus on students with special needs and circumstances and beyond that. So we're going to try to increase our in-person small groups as soon as possible. This Thursday meeting will establish also parameters and the details to increase, of course, in-person instruction and move towards starting school, again, February 22nd, for as many students as circumstances will allow. When we see the light, we are prepared to burst through to the other side to revitalize and give our students what they need. We are prepared to move forward successfully, and we're going to make it happen. We are going to make it happen. We're just waiting for the right moment to move out. And we will keep you posted. I've tried to keep everyone posted in terms of where we're at and what's happening, and I will continue to do that. But right at this point, I want to thank the board for their support, for acknowledging the times that we're in, and that safety and the health of our students, and of course our families and our staff continues to be of paramount importance. And if you read the newspapers, listen to the radio, go online, you're going to see that school districts across the country and throughout our state are doing the same things, because they're worried too about their kids, about their staff. And we're no different than the rest of the school districts around our country. So stay tuned, folks, and stay with us, and please support us as we move forward, as you have in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Apostle.
Thank you.
All right, so we come to the part of the meeting for our second community comments. As a reminder, anyone who's interested in making a comment, you will need to call in and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. So Bob, do we have anyone who is hoping to make a comment at this time?
Yes, Erica, who spoke at the first public period, also has her hand raised to speak at this period.
All right, thank you. So Erica, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak one more time. I just wanted to, first of all, much respect and really awe for what you guys are having to grapple with right now with COVID. And I sort of defer to that tonight. It's hard to try to talk about other things when that gargantuan topic is in the room. But I just want to just put in a plug to not let that dual language instruction slip in the meantime. And what I mean is that in the beginning of the meeting, we had some parents talk about the fact that English learners need to remain able to choose dual language instruction, even if they're fully online. And the other part of state and federal law that comes with English language instruction is that parents need to be informed through meetings, obviously difficult right now, but they need to be informed through meetings of their choice, their ability to choose that for their students. And so I would just read this. Title I of ESSA and ESEA, Section 1112E is the section about parents' right to know. Regular meetings implementing an effective means of outreach to parents under Clause 1 shall include holding and sending notice of opportunities for regular meetings for the purpose of formulating and responding to recommendations from parents or students assisted under this part of Title III, which again is just basically means you've got to be able to have regular meetings with parents and inform them of their right to choose English dual language programs for their students. So how are you going to do that during this time? It is still required by law. And I'm just looking here to see if there's anything else to say. Although English learners come with many assets, including their home language and culture, we should know that our school system presents many barriers. Many are new to English. Many have parents who are limited in their English speaking abilities. They all want to learn, but they need Spanish language and teachers to access their education. Finally, Bob, I think keep me posted on my time here if you got to cut me off, but I am just going to a different email here.
You have about 45 seconds.
Okay. I just think that in conclusion, trying to access this stuff here, I'm going to just make two bold things. Next year, consider returning at Evergreen Elementary to all 50-50 dual language and no English only track there. And please make sure that the upcoming superintendent has dual language experience so that he or she can support this program fully. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Erica. All right, Bob, do we have anyone else who is hoping to make a comment?
No one else shows as having their hand raised at this time.
All right. I'm going to do a teacher pause here. Okay. So we'll go ahead and move on to board member comments. Thank you to everyone from the community that made a comment tonight. That's greatly appreciated. So board member comments, who would like to go first? Lynn, why don't you go first?
I just want to, again, thank everybody for all their work on this reopening. And I appreciate how many stakeholders, Kelly included, in her committee. So I feel like the plan itself was very thought out and well done, and I appreciate it. I'm glad we landed somewhere where I think most people will find comfort. So. And I don't have anything else to report.
All right, thank you very much. Sandy, would you like to go next?
I'll give it a try. Thank you to all the staff and whatnot. We've been working on quite a few challenging issues with the COVID and the reopening, and also throwing in the superintendent search here as well. And thank everybody for their help and everybody for their participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Carrie, would you like to go next?
Sure, and I will just keep mine short. Just thank you to everybody for all of your work, and let's just continue to collaborate and listen to each other and listen to our community and help support each other during this very difficult time. As we see with just the turn of a new year, it didn't mean that everything magically got easier for us. But I believe that we can get through this. And I definitely believe that if we all work together and continue to collaborate, we are going to find ways to just help each other through this difficult time. And I like what Sally said about finding creative ways to connect with kids, and we just have to keep striving for that. And I appreciate how each one of you does that all the time. We see it. I thank you for your board reports that you do send to us. I thank you for any emails that get sent to us, whether it's from Dr. Apostle or staff or community members. I appreciate anybody who reaches out in that way and helps us understand the situations better. So thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Sally B.
And I agree with Carrie, and we just got to stay the course and get through these hard times and get to better days, and just wish everybody the best, and beg of everybody to please be safe. Keep up your diligence with your PPE and social distancing. I really hate that word. I think it should be physical distancing, and just be safe so we can all be back together again. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Well, I'll keep mine short to just a few little housekeeping things. Stakeholder meetings that are happening this week. Let's see, tomorrow, Wednesday at 5:30, there's a stakeholders meeting. It's a Spanish session. So if you know of anyone who would be interested in attending, please feel free to let them know. The information is on our website and also on Facebook. At 7, there is another stakeholders meeting. And then on Thursday at 5:30, there is a third stakeholders meeting. When we say stakeholders, we mean community. Staff is welcome to attend as well, students, families. So it's really important to the board that we get as much input as possible into what the community values in terms of their next superintendent. So we encourage you, if you're able to attend one of those, please do. We're excited to hear what the outcomes of those are. If you're unable to attend a meeting, then of course there's also the survey online, which is available in Spanish and I believe in Conjabal as well. So with that, we'll move on to, we have an exempt session tonight where we're going to look at some bargaining information. There will be possible action that comes out of that. So Terry, Alex, are we thinking about 20 minutes or so? Okay, about 20 minutes, and then we'll come back out and either take action or adjourn the meeting. So at this time, I think we will move into a breakout room. This meeting will stay open in the meantime, and when we're done, we'll come back into this public meeting to finish the board meeting. $7:55. Let's see, has everyone made it back? Looks like we have. All right, so we have 2 proposed bargaining agreements to take possible action on. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the proposed bargain agreement with the Shelton Certificated Administrators Association.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed bargain agreement with the Shelton Certificated Administrators Association. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so that bargained agreement passes. So the next agreement we have on the table is with the Shelton Educational Office Professional Group.
So I'll move that we accept the agreement with the Shelton. I don't know, I forgot what you just said.
Educational office personnel, and I'll second that.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept, which helps, to accept the bargain agreement with the Shelton Educational Office Personnel. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the agreement passes. Thank you very much, Terry and Brenda. I know you spent a lot of time working with our groups, and that's very appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, so we are at the end of the meeting. Would someone like to move to adjourn?
I'll make that motion too. I'll move that we adjourn.
No, I'll second it.
All right, any discussion?
Just
All
very-
those in, oh, go ahead.
Because I know you're going to adjourn, you're going to leave.
I'm going to adjourn and we're out of here.
I want to thank you so much on behalf of many, many people for your support and your decision tonight. You made the right decision. You took the high road. You took the high road, and that will bear out, believe me. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. I know we've had a lot of long meetings, so it's appreciated.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.